that, and then thinking about how God is love, because you can't give to God, God is only given to you. And that's what love does. Love gives without expectation of anything in return, because it doesn't require anything in return. But because we're humans, we require. So that was a good point you brought up. Love is powerful, and people think that doing other things will get them in. And people think that they fulfill these requirements of love. They think they're doing these things. Oh, I'm patient, I'm kind, I don't envy, I don't boast, and so on and so forth. They think they're fulfilling these things, and they're thinking of themselves and measuring themselves more highly than they ought to. The idea here is, of course, to provoke us to love, but also to provoke us to trust in the Lord, to lean on him to fulfill this type of love on the inside of us. All right. So now today we're in the Boaz dilemma. The Boaz dilemma and dating advice. So let's just read a couple. First, let's learn about Ruth a little bit, the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth is about a woman named Ruth and her mother-in-law, Naomi. So one thing people don't recognize about Ruth is, number one, Ruth was married before. She wasn't just some single lady looking for a husband. She was married before. And since she was married before and she loved her husband, she also loved her mother-in-law. So when all the mother-in-law's sons died, Ruth was actually free to go on and find another husband somewhere else. But instead, because she loved her mother-in-law so much, she followed her and went with her, and she loved her, and she learned about God, and so she loved her God as well. And so, because Ruth was a foreigner, she wasn't of the Hebrew people, she was a foreigner, and so she told Naomi, "My God will be your God will be my God," and so on and so forth. She's going to live with her. She's going to stay with her, right? And so, when Naomi went back to her people, Ruth went along with her, and it was Naomi that encouraged Ruth to be with Boaz, because what they were looking for was a kinsman redeemer. Now, understanding this, why this is important, because you have to understand the culture. Women didn't have rights back then. They didn't have a lot of rights. They couldn't own land like that. They couldn't own property and things like that. That was not possible for them. And so a lot of times they needed